MEGNANOU Bienvenue 2. An ex-wizard becomes evangelist. Chapter 5, Sorcery and Social Promotion. Lack of jobs, unemployment, failures. There are people who will never have a job until they have Jesus Christ in their lives. Whatever high education they have been able to do and the degrees they have been able to obtain, they will never know happiness. Their studies will be useless. Their files will be sorted in the drawers of the companies because the wizards have decided that way. They have bewitched them. I myself have bewitched people to stay unemployed and experience failure until they die. The wizard who claims to ward off this evil spell is a liar. This evil can certainly be mitigated. The victim can find work, but after 1 or 2 months, he will be fired. This spell will always weigh on him. A teacher or healer cannot do anything but steal money from him. He must accept Jesus Christ to be released. It is Jesus Christ who can heal this kind of spell because it was he who destroyed the works of Satan on the cross at Golgotha. He delivered Satan in the show. Therefore, if you accept Jesus Christ with all your heart, no sorcerer's spell can harm you. It's not about to accept Jesus Christ just to ward off evil, and to live as he pleases, for Christ knows our heart. When we accept him, he knows whether we are sincere or not. It is for this reason that there are people in the church who do not prosper because they come to church with petty motives. But we must entrust ourselves body and soul to the Lord Jesus Christ because no one else than him can deliver us from these spells, sources of failure and unemployment. Teachers and healing wizards can do nothing. They will try things that seem to work. For example, they will allow the victim to find work, but these results will be fleeting. If they are hired, they will be fired later and will again have the bad luck to make you squander your money. These people must, therefore, give themselves to the Lord Jesus Christ. Witchcraft and inheritance. By witchcraft, I attacked the heir children of the deceased rich so that they do not enjoy these goods. Their uncle or aunt came to see me to make them sick so that they eventually lost their inheritance. Sorcerers are in families. Those who are in Jesus and who are attached to the Word of God, the wizards can do nothing against them as inheritors of their Father because the Spirit that is in them is superior to the Spirit that is in them. Jesus Christ is the protection of the heir children who put their trust in him. He is the protection par excellence against the works of witchcraft. Through witchcraft, I was creating problems for my own clients to come back to see me at any time. After helping them prosper in their business, society, I watched them, and when they least expected them, I aroused a situation that forced them to come back to see me. It was then an opportunity to ruin them. This is what fetishers and occultist marabouts do to their customers. All those who go to their homes always have problems, although things seem to work well. When I wanted to hurt someone, I watched him. If, for example, he had a vehicle, I set a date for a certain fetish to finish with him. When the day came, I had only to finish it. Attack against whites. Some people say that fetishers and wizards cannot reach whites. This is to misunderstand the power of Satan. As far as I'm concerned, I was destroying the lives of whites. One day, in a big society in the square, there was a white man whom I will call Don Achian here. He was technical director and had a black assistant. He came to consult me because he wanted to be in the place of the boss. He gave me the necessary for the work. I say to him then, in 7 days you will see what will happen to this white man. I used the fetish of which I spoke above and which served me among other things to get people to get drunk, to squander all their salary in drinking with women, and to deteriorate their mental health. So I pronounced incantatory words, using the name of the white man. That day, I should say that night. Because, as usual, it was at night. That night, then, I put on my shirt and did the work. At the invocation of his name, his image appeared in the canary. After a week, he went crazy. When he arrived at his place of work, he undressed, uttered incoherent words and tried to throw himself on an electronic machine. But the people stopped him, preventing him to be killed by this machine. He was taken to the hospital and repatriated to his country of origin. After vain attempts to restore his mental health, the management of the company was led to replacing him with his deputy. So, Donatian went mad and the African took his place. I had to destroy other lives of whites by a fetish made up of a human foot with a padlock to paralyze them and make them disabled. Unable to move, they were thus replaced at their post by Africans. By the same process, I could also captivate whites by drugs, cigarettes to make them squander their wages. There are many whites who are slaves to cigarettes, drugs, or who run after prostituted girls. Their lives are at the mercy of wizards. Bewitching whites is not difficult. The fetish and sorcery reach them just as easily as blacks. 4. Satan, whether white or black, it does not matter. He destroys everyone with the same efficiency. The color of the skin cannot influence the fetish, even less Satan. Only the power of Jesus Christ, which we will discuss later, can protect us. My friend, whether you are white or other, you who are on the heels of girls to infect them with diseases, or that you are a slave to drugs, cigarette, prostitution and what do I know, when reading this testimony, give your life to the Lord Jesus Christ to be delivered from all these bonds. Because your life is in danger. Help for bandits and traitors. I delivered fetishes to the big bandits, anti-bullet, seat belt, they were thus protected by demons. But these people end badly because the fetishes that I gave them, as a wizard, have a limit. With the help of a perfume they brought me, I made medicine that big international traders used. They could have suspicious packages that were never checked by the customs officers. If the customs officer controls them, he sees nothing and they pass without a problem. If they did, they would come to me and give them medicine, and then they would meet the director of customs. 4. A customs clearance that was to be valued at more than 5 million, it made them pay 600,000 FCFA. Thanks to the medicine that I had given them. Thus, these traders prospered. If you are very observant, you must have noticed a fan with 9 lines, 3 at each corner of the triangle, hanging in some shops. These are products made from human blood, white kaolin, and cowries. You will find that these shops work very hard because it attracts customers. Shops in the area are simply weaned customers. But this success is not of long duration, because their wealth is based on sacrifices, on diabolical ceremonies. These traders are not long in having problems and go bankrupt. This is a fact that I have personally observed. Also, I appeal to traders who make sacrifices. If you do not accept Jesus Christ, know that you will have a tragic end. Accidents and prosperity of carriers. Some major carriers in Côte d'Ivoire know me because of the help I gave them. Some carriers started with 2 buses and ended up with 50 to 60 cars. How was it possible? There was a condition to fulfill. Generally, the customer had to sacrifice one of his cars to the fetish sake pata. You often hear about accidents of cars with many deaths. Well, here is the reason. I asked the customer just the number of the bus to sacrifice humans. More than 500,000 FCFA he had to bring me after the accident. With the bus number, I worked with a fetish made of human blood. This fetish is hungry for human blood. In the absence of human blood, he needs pork blood. It works when it's raining. After the departure of the bus at the speed of 120 km/h, if there is a little rain, the tires slip and the car rolls over. The idea is that half of the passengers die because the blood must flow. Once done, the sacrifice is considered successful. After 2 to 3 months, the buses of this client start to prosper and he becomes rich. He can then buy several cars. Thus, innocent people die to ensure the prosperity of these criminals. To carry out certain works, I had signed pacts with wizards in Benin, where I went regularly. I could not always indicate the day when certain operations were to be carried out, because everything did not depend on me, but also great wizards of Benin with whom I had signed pacts. Sometimes, when I saw that I could not do the work requested on the spot, I took the plane and I went to Benin. I saw a great wizard doing the trick and I was flying back. I did this to satisfy my clients because my reputation depended on the success of my practices. The Sakpata fetish is a spirit that loves human blood. He is at the edge of catastrophes, wars, and accidents. Helping musicians. Most musicians you see and people envy are under the control of demons. They signed pacts with the witch doctors, so with Satan. I personally helped musicians and singers from various countries. I usually made for them a fetish based on a perfume they love and human blood. I asked them to bring these items, plus a sum of 200,000 francs. If they were unable to bring human blood, I gave them myself for payment. The benefits were somewhat expensive because of the work to be done. Indeed, I had to build the fame of the customer, to make it known. So I put all the necessary elements in this bottle of perfume, red parrot feather and other, then, I gave him this product which he was to perfume wherever he goes. Once done, people only have their names on their lips. This spirit acts on journalists. If the musician has a concert, he has only to consult and make sacrifices. This concert will only work. He will have a lot of money. It is this work that ensures the incredible success of some stars whose cassettes are bought like hotcakes and that make shows in crowded halls. Thus, I helped foreign musicians come to liven up concerts. They had an extraordinary success, but these concerts ended with fights to the blood. Simply because this success was due to witchcraft. What's more, all this money will not be used for anything good. They use it to use drugs all day long. Some defend themselves by claiming that they do not use drugs. In fact, it is witchcraft, the fetish, that drives them to do these things against their will. Also, these people end up badly. You only have to observe things closely. There have been several cases of musicians who have prospered. They sang for Satan and his demons and that, thanks to the wizards. But after, they end up dull. Examples in this area are legion. The cases of Bob Marley, Franco, and others are uplifting. Their tragic end testifies to the pacts they had to sign with Satan. As far as I'm concerned, there are some for whom I had to make the fetish. They started in a rush, but their popularity was decreasing. After helping a lot of musicians, I make a call today through the book you hold in your hand. Give your life to Jesus Christ. Satan can certainly lift you, but you will end badly. I ask these musicians from Cameroon and Zaire, who know each other well, to accept Jesus Christ. Put your life in order with Jesus Christ and play for the Lord. Musicians who play for the Lord are blessed. They have the protection of Jesus Christ, nothing can be done against them. All they do for the glory of the Lord. If you play for Satan, know that he will destroy you one day or another. Female executives who are not married. These women have, for the most part, a spirit of bad smell on their life. The fetish that causes this is human blood that is crushed with another element. Between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning, I blew on the powder that was spreading. It was then done on this woman. She will never have a husband. Bewitching senior executives. I also bewitched senior executives, no matter where they were. Since they make a lot of money, they make a lot of jealousies around them. It was enough that I was given the name of a frame so that I captivated. So, he never succeeded in his projects. If he knew it and fled to the United States or elsewhere, as a wizard, I was always on his heels. One can never flee a sorcerer until one has Jesus Christ, for then one is not protected, our life is in danger. If it happens that such people want to build a house in the village, the withdrawals they made at the bank were not foreign to me. By witchcraft, I could destroy that money they were withdrawing. As well the work begins, but when the walls rise to 2m the work is blocked, diseases in the home, wife, or sick children one after the other. The work never ends. This is most often explained by the dark hand of wizards. These sow disorder in their economies or make their victim sick. They ruin themselves to pay for drugs, they go into debt by drawing money from projects. This is the life of these senior executives who receive huge salaries but are unable to build at home. The wizard can let someone finish his house and prevent him from living there. It becomes haunted and those who live in it die or abandon it. All this is the work of Satan, he seeks only to destroy. He was daring to succeed before men, to better destroy them afterward. The sorcerer, after giving power to his client, leave him free until the day he has set to deliver his body and soul to Satan, who is then responsible for killing him. Sorcerers can tie their victim for years. Once the date they have chosen has arrived, they have only to slit it. Only the Lord Jesus Christ can rescue you and deliver you from all these bonds of curses of a sorcerer who push you to squander your salary. Because if not, despite the debts you have contracted, you cannot finish building the house. It will be abandoned to the rain and bad weather. That will deteriorate the little that has been built. You will pay the bills to the bank for nothing. So, my friends, pay attention. If you do not have Jesus Christ in your life, you are in danger. Help for senior executives and appointments. You see the personalities and senior executives do the backs and roll in the big Mercedes, but when they arrive in front of the fetishers, especially in the run-up to the elections, they are getting very young. They become like kids in front of a simple witch doctor. This is a very amusing scene. I say that as a witness because I have helped many senior executives as well. They came with a sheep and over 200,000 and I was doing the fetish. On this occasion, they had to bring 2 meters of percale. We would kill the sheep, we would disembowel it, we would get rid of all its intestines and other things, I would take the rest of the sheep, I would put it on my client's head, I would ask him to remove his underbody and we would have the ritual to wash them at the crossroads. There, my disciples began lapping the toms at which the client had to dance. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning when no car was passing. Besides, my mystical powers allowed me to divert all the traffic, so that at that moment, the streets were empty. However, despite this power, it happened that a car passes by and that the user sees the scene. In that case, he had to die of fever once he got home. After the dance at the crossroads, the client is unloaded and trained in a cemetery to attend the burial of the sheep near a tomb. I then asked him to cry until his tears flowed. Sometime after this sacrifice, he is appointed to an important post. For example, he becomes a minister after a reshuffle. But we must repeat, these people end badly. When power decreases, they fall lower than they were. Election. With respect to elections for important positions, MP or otherwise, I imposed the conditions here. On my illustrious clients, I asked them an element of their body that I will not name. Sea sand in large quantities. The voices they will have will depend on the amount of sea sand brought. A bottle of human blood. Generally, customers could not get this last item. I provided it to them. On top of that, I asked them a difficult condition. Sacrifice one of their children. The child dies either during the campaign, or after the elections, or he becomes stunned. Or, if they have two wives, they sacrifice one who must suffer the same fate as the child. It is for this reason that one often sees among the great authorities, people struck with monster infirmities. Chapter 6, Race to Wealth in Power. How I made people rich. I prayed first, then the consultation. The fetish specified the sacrifice to impose. There are many ways to become rich. To some, they were asked to bring in a bottle a small amount of semen, a certain amount of human blood and a sheep. I made sacrifices with these products. After the ceremony, I asked the customer to bring me a suitcase in which I will dispose of the white sheets cut out in ticket format of 5,000 and 10,000 FCFA. I poured sperm, human blood and sheep's blood on the leaves with incantatory words and handed him the suitcase. After 7 days, when he opens the suitcase, he will find correct banknotes in large quantities, which he can use as he pleases. But in return for the sperm delivered as a guarantee, he will have no more children. He may have sex, he will never be able to have children. This is why we see many rich people without children. They have all kinds of things, but they do not have children. After their death, their family cannot use this money. It must be squandered. I've helped people get rich, but I have to say that everyone whose wealth is based on witchcraft ends badly. They have big cars, Mercedes, big houses, and a lot of money, but they end badly. Magic banknotes. I had a fetish made up of 1000 F, 5000 F and 10,000 FCFA, but also 500 FCFA. I pronounced incantatory words on these notes before giving them to the customers. These were making purchases with these banknotes at merchants. Once one of these banknotes is in the recipe of the day, the trader always loses money. After a few years, he goes bankrupt and it's a hassle. Many of these traders are no longer doing well. Sorcerers are often the cause of bankruptcy traders. In the beginning, these traders thrive, but after a few years, it's a mess. Albino debauchery and sacrifices. After consultation, sometimes the evil spirit asks them to sleep with a madwoman under a shed or with their eldest daughter. Nowadays, there are clients who consent. What would one not do to become rich? After sleeping with a crazy woman in the street at night, they become extremely rich. They own trailers, buses, but they end up being crazy and their descendants have problems to use this wealth that is destined to disappear. To still others, he was asked to propose an albino child to sacrifice. It was the favorite formula of most customers, and for good reason. It was only necessary to bring the hair of an albino. The work was done in their room, and the albino died no matter where he was. The client also had to abstain from having sex with a woman, sometime before the sacrifice. The work was done with the help of this child's hair, half a liter of human blood, 4 bottles of gin, 2 m. of percale and 100,000 FCFA. Believe me, there are people who brought me this sum, and a big suitcase. We went home to his house. We stayed in a room. I made all the sacrifices and incantations that this requires. After all the sacrifices, I put all the necessary elements in the bag which he will open. 7 days later, he will find there banknotes of 10,000 F in large numbers, the sum brought could be multiplied by 1000. Note that the kid whose client will have sent the hair will die. You have heard of marabouts who deceive their customers. It is because these marabouts do not make good sacrifices. Because there are sacrifices to be made so that the geniuses can give their agreement. The marabout can make sure that his client sees the money in the bag, but when he arrives home, he finds only paper. It's because the sacrifice was not made. Besides that, there are, of course, liars who abuse money-hungry men. Sorcerers and fetishers do the work half by making their customers believe that they have done it in full. Because they tell themselves that if they do the job in full, the customer will not come back. Some do the work halfway. At first, it's fine, but after a while, it starts to go wrong and the client is forced to come to the same witch doctor who will take more money from him. They say they are healers, fetishists, teachers, but they only ruin people to the point where some sell their TV to give them what they ask. They do not tell the truth to people. This is the motto of wicked fetishers, like Satan. Their master, always exploit the plaintiff before making the real fetish. When Satan grants power, it is irresistible at first, but eventually, it ends badly. The lives of his servants are in danger and he himself is in charge of destroying them. As far as I'm concerned, I could help people become rich after consulting the fetishes because it was the fetish that prescribed what to bring. I made sacrifices for people to become millionaires or even billionaires. But, once these people die, their wealth dissipates. For the wealth that Satan provides does not last. As a wizard, I helped many people become rich that way. In this area, my reputation had surpassed the Ivorian borders to such an extent that I had clients coming from Gabon, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Senegal, and Mali, etc. As you know, a customer sometimes brings several other customers. Human sacrifices. Many great hucksters and billionaires often make human sacrifices each year to sustain their wealth. And this human sacrifice is either October 31st, November 30th or December 31st to end the year. If you have noticed, it is from October that there is kidnapping, until December. These children, we do not find them anymore. Even big people are kidnapped. They draw blood from their bodies to get rich. One thing is certain, all these kidnappers end up badly afterward. They pay the price of their package. The super rich are generally untouchable because of their relationships with those in the high spheres of the state which protect those who have a high net worth. My own race to riches. Child trafficking. To get money, I entered a child trafficking group. We stole the children to sell them to the Alajis. Deformation of El Hajj. Often they were sold at 5 million. As for them, they will work on these children to become a billionaire. So far, the group of Alajis continues to operate. Because when I go to Benin, I see them at their post. I do not fail to approach them to tell them the truth about this life they lead. I believe that the Lord will perform the miracle one day. Counterfeit money production. I was also in the manufacture of counterfeit banknotes. I had 2 partners. Once, a great wizard from Benin asked us to bring the hump of a hunchback dead and buried. So we went to see the guardian of the municipal cemetery. At that time, in the years 86 to 87, the Beninese government did not pay the civil servants. So we had no trouble seducing the guard to bring him to show us the tomb of a hunchback buried for about 6 months. We broke down the coffin and we removed the hunchback's body. Then we removed his hump. It was rotten, but we removed it and we put the body back in the coffin. With the bump thus extracted, we went to see the great wizard. He took it, led us into a room. On the other hand, he entered another small room. After an hour, he called us. And we saw hundreds of thousands of banknotes that he asked us to count. I was the first to count. That was more than 50 billion. But there was a flaw on the banknotes because we had a hole in the bump and it broke the deal. We had to burn all the bills, more than 50 billion. Sale of drugs. I took advantage of the marabouage, to sell drugs. This one was in a cemented hole and a fetish was deposited on it. Many marabouts, wizards, and others are drug sellers. For my part, I sold Indian hemp and cocaine. Satan urged me to do these unsavory things and many more to increase my wealth. How I conferred power to my clients. I also had a fetish that I had acquired in Benin. This fetish was based on two albinos, a woman and a boy, passed by to sell wood in the neighboring village at the precise moment when the wizards hit their tom-tom. We seized them and threw them into a big hole that was closed. With this fetish that I could acquire, whatever the power of an individual, I could always increase this power. On the other hand, if a wizard or a witch doctor were against me, he will do well to cease and desist since he could do nothing against me. My own race to power. I practiced fasting, because as a sorcerer, if I was entrusted with very delicate work, I had to act fast to do this job. I did not eat for 7 days, I only drank coconut juice and with incantatory words, I got positive results to destroy the life of someone whose soul is powerful. You must fast to win the day. This is how many wizards do for any difficult case. For example, I was asked to captivate someone to get lost in the forest. We see people hanging in the forest, this is due to witchcraft. Pact with wizards. I made a pact with the great wizards of Benin for extra power. You see, there are basically 3 categories of wizards and ways of contracting witchcraft. First category, a man can be born a sorcerer, from the belly of his mother. This one or the father of this individual may have offered it to Satan. Second category, anyone can become one by making a pact with a renowned wizard. It is enough for the wizard and the plaintiff to cut the skin, collect the blood in one and the same glass, mix it with a little gin, and drink it in turn. The pact is thus sealed. From that moment on, one is introduced to witchcraft. The sorcerer has transmitted sorcery for giving the initiate his blood. Third category, these are the born wizards who had nevertheless to make one or more pacts with wizards more powerful. It was my case. I made pacts with the great wizards in Wita, Porto Novo. Behind Porto Novo, there at Sakli Ekpile, there are great wizards. I looked far. I had to spend money, millions on these things. Sorcery is expensive, because the pact with the great wizards requires money. I was traveling by plane to see the great masters. I often hear on the Ivorian radio of the so-called wizards, Beninese professors who claim to go to Benin to go to see the customers. This is certainly not impossible because myself, I had some customers in Benin, but most of the time, it's bluff for the simple reason that Benin is saturated with witches and healers. In fact, these so-called teachers in need of advertising go to Benin to seek other powers to be more effective in their activities. They go there to make pacts. Maybe they take the opportunity to see some customers. But in general, they do not have clients in Benin. As far as I'm concerned, I went to see teachers to receive other powers from them. However, I had clients in Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Togo, Liberia, etc. Those who claim to have customers in Benin are most often liars who use the radio antennas to attract customers. But this is not surprising, because Satan, who is at the base of this, is himself the liar par excellence. He is a slanderer. He came to destroy, to kill. Those who worship him can only live in lies. Indeed, every wizard lives on lies. Let me tell you that I was helping great company directors dig up the fetishes of their villas. When they came to see me, I happened to tell them, after consultation, that some wizards have buried fetishes in their yard or in their office. While it is not true of some, it was sometimes true in others. The fetish tells me where exactly the object is buried. But when a rich man calls me and I have no indication, I could not let him go like that. I had to get from him some money. So I made myself a little fetish that I hid under a long-sleeved knit. Arriving at the scene, I began to dig with a machete somewhere in their yard. After a moment, I dropped the fetish hidden under the bamboo. In the hole I dug, and I said, "Here is the fetish." This is how these wizarding wizards go in order to extract money from their customers. They are deceiving liars. If a fetishist claims to have buried a fetish in your office, do not believe him. Burying a fetish in a tiled office is not given to any fetishist. Besides, if that were true and you got rid of this fetish, you would not be delivered anyway. So do not rely on fetishers. Rely on the Lord Jesus Christ, for He is the only way. If that were true and you got rid of this fetish, you would not be delivered. So do not rely on fetishers. Marriage with Mamie Wada. As part of my growing wealth and power, I had to marry Mamie Wada. The marriage itself. Mamie Wada, the mermaid of the seas, is a powerful demon who acts from the western shores. Mamie Wada's annual festival is celebrated in Togo at Anako, Mamie Wada's headquarters in Togo, at the seaside, on a date chosen by Mamie Wada herself. Usually, this happens in August or September. This celebration brings together thousands of men and women who have celebrated marriage with this spirit and received support or help from them for their prosperity. The marriage to Mamie Wada is a highly mystical scene. This wedding, celebrated at the seaside around 1 a.m., because Mamie Wada has her mind in the sea, is the occasion of a grand ceremony, bringing together great women you hear about, the Nana Bens from Togo, ladies from Benin, Ghana, who also made this marriage with Mamie Wada. Many do it to enrich themselves. Especially, this was the case for me. It is a witch doctor who put us in touch with his spirit. Those who officiate these marriages generally live by the sea. My marriage with Mamie Wada has not escaped the rule. He was famous by a great witch doctor. To do this, the witch doctor officiating asked me the following: a sheep, 12 chickens, a liter of human blood, a rack of yuki, a rack of gin, 12 cartons of Gauloise brand cigarettes, 12 scented soaps of Rexona brand. It seems that this spirit of Grandma Wada loves class perfumes, a percale suit. I had to wear a white hat. There were pearls that I had to put on the neck, wrist, foot. He also asked me for a small canary in a plastic bucket of 15 liters and also the perfume Saint Michel. At this ceremony, the followers come from everywhere, Togo, Benin, Ivory Coast, etc. Around 1 o'clock in the morning, on a Friday at the seaside, I knelt in the middle of the group, made up of followers for the party. We were all naked. From this position, a woman stood up, smoked a cigarette and sent the smoke on my head, followed by the group who pronounced words of blessing on me. After that, the blood of the sheep that I brought, that of the 12 chickens killed, and the human blood, mixed in a bucket, was given to me, so that I go to wash at the seaside. Not far from the where we were, there was, added to that, a rack of Yuki brand sweets. So I washed with these products, asking for happiness in my life and an account of 3 billion. After the washing, with the blood please, there was some blood clotted in the bucket, which the witch doctor asked me to drink. Then I rinsed with bottles of Yuki, without water. I was there alone. After 10 minutes, a great wind, a terrible wind blew, and a big snake came out of the sea, and went towards me. He turned 6 times around me. The 7th time, he inserted his tongue into my mouth and went back into the sea. The witch doctor, who was about 100 meters away, followed everything. He said, shouting, to throw everything I had, the bucket, the bottles, in the sea, and come running. I joined them in the house of the witch doctor, and they welcomed me. In the house of the witch doctor where I was, there was white kaolin, a candle, powder, Saint Michel perfume. He asked me to spend the night in this house until morning. They had all left me there because the ceremony had ended late at night. In my dream, I saw a very beautiful woman who handed me a suitcase containing banknotes of 10,000 FCFA. She stayed with me until 3 o'clock in the morning. In the morning, at the request of the witch doctor, I told him the dream. He told me that everything was in order and that the marriage was thus consumed. It only remained for me to make a commitment with Mamie Wada. I signaled to him that I was ready for the engagement. The commitment. There are many kinds of marriages with Mamie Wada. Each type of marriage is associated with a particular handicap. There are people who always have their heads shaved and who are really rich. This is most often due to the marriage with Mamie Wada. There are others who are one-eyed, others have sold one of their feet, one of their fingers. Short. They marriages with Mamie Wada are multiple and multiform. So I had a choice to make, having own eyeless, either a foot or a finger cut, a head always shaved, proof that these are my hair that I sacrificed, or then agree not to have children. Another type of marriage, he told me, was selling my age so that every year I would be 5 years younger at the time I had to live. That type of marriage, added he, makes immensely rich. My choice was made on this last disposition. The witch doctor sought the advice of Mamie Wada, who agreed. The witch doctor or Wada gave me 20 years to live from 1985, counting. After the wedding, every Thursday morning, I had to get dressed, according to the recommendations, in a white dress. So it was my percale outfit. I wore pearls on my neck, feet, and wrists. This moment was the most favorable for consultations. In the night from Thursday to Friday, the same big snake that came out of the sea at my wedding had come to bed next to me. I did the ceremonies from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. in his company. Before the arrival of the snake, I did not have sex. After he left, the drawers of my bed were filled with 10,000 F notes. When shopping with these kinds of bills, they always come back in their place. It made me more wealthy. This is the marriage with Mamie Wada. 2 days later, the witch doctor and I were again at the seaside. He left me at the beach and entered the room to the bottom of the sea. After 3 hours, he came out with 4 bundles of candles, which he handed me from Mamie Wada. He told me later at home that these candles were to be used every Thursday night until Friday, for ceremonies. I had to do these ceremonies alone in my room once back in Abidjan. He showed me the different roles that these candles could play. If a client wanted to eliminate an annoying person with one of these candles, I could do it for him by creating an accident. I could also make him rich because the marriage with Mamie Wada enriches and protects, even if it is true that it reserves to the contractor a tragic end, as it should be my case, namely 5 years less each year. This fragrance is used by churches associated with candles. The churches in question have links with Mamie Wada. Often they are found at the seaside with the scent and candles they light to invoke the spirit of Mamie Wada. They use the Bible as a cover. The 50 taxis were in a way my capital. I was 2 days away from taking possession of this capital when the process of my conversion began. In my efforts to obtain these 50 taxis, I used my influence on the mystical level to force the general manager of a large vehicle sales company to agree to grant me 50 new vehicles without even that I have to pay the last penny. I only had to pay after this unsecured loan. If I live again, it is thanks to Jesus Christ who holds our lives in his hands. This spirit of MEGNANOU is at the base of prostitution. He's pushing people to go to nightclubs. MEGNANOU is also at the base of women and husbands at night. Contact with an Indian mentor. I was in contact with an Indian with whom I had sessions several times in my house in Ababagaray. There, he and I, the torso, we made incantations around 1 o'clock in the morning. After that, he took his plane and left. A week after this series of visits, every Friday afternoon, I made incantations during which I saw the image of this Indian in a large mirror that he had given me and that I had installed in my room. Through this mirror, I spoke to him directly. I must say that senior executives engage in such practices made of incantations with partners in Europe, India or elsewhere in the world. They know what I'm talking about. So I was in contact with this Indian by incantatory words. To the pronunciation of these words, he presented himself in my mirror and we communicated, him in India, and me in Abidjan. By this Indian, I had increased my power. It allowed me to help a lot of people. I made them evolve in their society, in their ministry. They came from Congo, Mali, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, and so on, to consult me. Through this book, I address all those I had helped in this way by telling them that what I did for them is nil. It's worthless next to eternal life. I beg you so, stop all this. Accept Jesus Christ. Otherwise, you will end badly. The mystical works are terrible. You can be in your car and get run over by a big truck. That's what I call a bad ending.